Dice Gaming. Today we're going to be continuing our discussion on the affiliation breakdowns, and this is a video that I've been looking forward to especially. Today we're going to be talking about the Black Order, so Thanos and his crew. This is one of the affiliations that I have played probably the most since it's been released. I am a huge fan of this faction and their playstyle. And so some of my general thoughts, to start these discussions off is, my feelings about this affiliation. And, I think one of the biggest reasons I like this affiliation so much is because it is very similar to the Cabal. And your affiliation, revolves heavily around your leader. So Thanos is, in many ways, the star of the show here. And he is not only going to be facilitating, what's going on here with your mind gem, or your space gem, or cosmic portals, moving everyone around, between your Death's Decrees and Death's Agenda. You are not only helping to, boost your attacks and manipulate the battlefield, but you're also getting, VPs for these kills. You want Thanos, you want him healthy, and you want him kind of like Red Skull, that midfield general. And, this leans itself, his abilities, the leadership ability, their roster, just leads itself to a very aggressive, brawling style team. And so you're going to be, in people's faces. You're going to be fighting, you're going to be using your actions generally most of the time towards those attack actions and trying to knock the enemy out as opposed to focusing on objectives. And this combos really well with their other, their last big trait, which is they are really hard to kill and they have a ton of damage mitigation. So every single person on this team except for or Ebony Maw rather, has a damage reduction passive like Iron Man. So any damage they take is reduced by 1, except for Thanos, which his can be reduced to less. His can be reduced to 0. So usually for everyone else, if they take 1, it can't be reduced to less than 1. Thanos can. And then Ebony Maw just has a passive where he pays 2 power, and then his defense becomes 6. So while he doesn't have any kind of damage mitigation, just, you have to get the damage through in the first place is the trick on him. So in general, the team really hard to deal with and put down. And, that'll lead us to the roster. And not too many options here. We have Thanos as the leader, obviously. Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Ebony Maw, and Black Dwarf. And so you don't have very many options, and the other thing that jumps out immediately, to us is that the point cost on this team. This is a very low body count team. So, 3-person teams at 15, 17 points, extremely common. Extremely common. It's only once you get into those higher points, like 18, 19, 20 points, where you start to see like 4-person teams, still not a ton, but it is a very low to the ground, body count wise team. You only have 1 3-point option, you have 2 4-point options, a 5-pointer and a 6-pointer. That's before we discuss gems, which is going to be there's going to be one of our big topics of discussion for this video, just because it is so crucial to how you run them as a team, how you want your roster to look, your lists, etc., etc. So the leadership ability, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the Death's Agenda ability is unique among leadership abilities that it changes when Thanos flips from his healthy to injured side. So for the healthy side, Death's Agenda is whenever you kill an enemy, no matter the range on the battlefield, you get 1 VP. So that's big, right? It allows you to be more aggressive early on and kind of forego some of those objectives, knowing that later on I'm going to be getting VPs and making up those kills when I get those KOs later on. So it's not the dazed only for like actually knocking out, killing an enemy model. But still, I mean, this is a huge, besides, what's his face, Killmonger's Usurp the Throne card, there's no other abilities in the game that give you VP for killing people. So, pretty strong. And then on the backside, this version of the ability is slightly less good, but still useful in the right circumstances, which is, regardless of the range, friendly models can, during the modification of dice step, so when you're like about to reroll, modify your dice for abilities and stuff, you can suffer up to 3 damage and reroll the dice for each damage that you take, so you can get up to 3 reroll after you take 3 damage. Maybe taking 1 damage, 2 damage if you really need some dice or results to go through, if this is gonna knock someone out or get you an objective. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be using it willy-nilly, especially on a team that has a bunch of damage reduction, so you should really make the opponent work for putting damage on you. Kind of doing them a favor, even more so than usual, just because of how difficult it is to put damage on your team. And yeah, if you have healing cards, which you should, running this team, and I think most teams in general now, med pack is basically a staple. Patch up is still useful under the right circumstances, but med pack especially especially something you want to be running, and healing up on Thanos is just really, really strong. That'll lead us into some of the Black Order cards and some of the other cards that you'll see. They're affiliated cards, they're neutral cards. So for the Black Order cards, they actually have several. They have 3, which is more than usual. Most have like 2. I think Avengers have 3 too. But Black Orders, they have Price of Failure is our first one. So this one is probably the most situational out of all of them. This is you take an injured character, you kill them, everyone else on your team gets 3 power. Now, if you have some kind of high body count Black Order team, you can fit it in if you're taking like only naked Thanos and Corvus and Proxima plus 3-pointer and a 4-pointer ish. You can make those points work. Outside of having 5 bodies basically, maybe 4. I think most of the time you don't have enough bodies to justify this, really. You're doing, number one, the enemy a huge favor by freeing up you are freeing up actions for the enemy to not take out your hard-to-kill team. So yeah, you get some power for it, but most of the time, really, I'm running like 3-man rosters most of the time. I'm playing at 15, 16, 17 points. So I knock out one of my people, which is really vital for me, right? Like even a dazed person is still useful to me. And I get 6 power for it. I don't know about that one. It's not totally useless, right? There's circumstances where it could be useful and you'll get a lot of power, Like in that 5-man, if you have a 5-man, some kind of 5-man roster that you're running, getting 12 power for one dude, if he's already close to death, maybe that's worth it, I think in most other circumstances, though, I don't know. And that'll lead us, the next card is Blood Despair. This one, better. Still a little bit more situational, but I like it. I would run it. It should probably have a spot on your 8, I think. And this is similar to Ronan's effect. Whenever one of your Black Order characters is dazed, you pay 3 power. Pay that 3 power after they're dazed. And then they get to make a free attack against whoever attacked them. And now, it also says here, if you have some kind of healing ability, and you would heal damage, you are no longer dazed during this attack, but there's no cards that I'm aware of that let you heal off your attacks yet, and there's no abilities in the Black Order that let you do that, you know? So, I mean, they're kind of future-proofing it, I guess. If there are cards that let you heal during an attack in the future, you know, like maybe Carnage has that card, who knows? That becomes really, really strong and much more viable. My favorite out of all the Black Order exclusive cards is definitely Mothership. So it's a little bit intensive energy-wise. You know, 4 energy is not cheap for sure, but having that mobility on some characters like Black Dwarf is just so huge. So, you know, you pay 2 power on each of these people, so that's where the 4 energy comes from, and you get to choose one of those, one of the characters to teleport within one of the other one. So there's a place, and as long as they're not holding an objective marker, whichever one is teleporting. So again, really big, and especially on a small body count team, sometimes you need to reposition really fast, and it makes characters like Proxima Midnight, I mean, just even more useful, you know, like hoof her across the battlefield, you teleport Thanos in, I mean, or Black Dwarf or something, that's rough to deal with, man, that's rough to deal with. And so for some of the neutral, the unaffiliated, but still Black Order associated cards, we have Shh or Shush, the Ebony Maw card, which functions basically like a counter in Magic. You just say no. So if an enemy within, 5, so it's a huge range. Enemy within 5 of Ebony Maw uses a superpower, active or reactive superpower, that costs energy. You know, and so like if Loki attacks and makes it cost energy, that works now. And so you pay your power, and you shut the attack, you like prevent that superpower from going off, and they can't use it for the rest of the turn. So, I mean, your Fraz guards, your charges, your throws, see ya, you know, I mean, this works on gem powers too. It's rough. Really a solid card. If you have Ebony in your roster at all, this should be there. Absolutely, this should be there. It's a huge control piece, and it's one of Ebony's best tools. So in addition, we have the card Execute, which is the Corvus and Proxima, their card. And so as long as both of them are within 1 of an enemy character, you pay 2 power. So 4 power, again, not cheap, but when you read this next part, so the enemy character rolls no defense dice during the next attack that either one of them make on him. You know, and with the chained activation ability, getting them both within 1 of an enemy character, not hard. And having no defense dice on the attack, I mean, you will one-shot people. Easily you'll one-shot people. And it's not even like hard to do. You know, so yeah, that just really pumps up their lethality so much. If you're running Corvus and Proxima, you should be running this card. Absolutely, you should be running this card. And yeah, it's good. So our last card is Power of the Cosmos, and that is the Thanos exclusive card. So it is one of these special attack cards. So it is an Area 1 attack to begin with. It's 6 dice, and it's an energy attack. So, you know, you gotta pay 4 power for this. So it's a 4 power, and for each gem you have on them now, the area gets bigger. So if you're rocking 2 gem Thanos, an Area 3 energy attack, that's actually pretty good, even for 4 power. You know, if you tag 3, 4 enemies even maybe, depending on the scenario with it. I don't think it's that bad, but generally, I'm not a big fan of these attack profile cards, just because they cost an action still, you know? And that's really the biggest thing. In a game where you only get 2 actions, this is taking up a card slot, it costs me power, and it takes an action. I mean, every single resource I have available at this game, this card takes it. And for me to justify bringing a card, that's using that much of my resources, this thing better be really, really good. And outside of scenarios where you're rocking like a double gem Thanos, it's hard for me to justify, Hard for me to justify. Even point costs, just getting the power to even do it, it's tough. So, for their neutral cards, so they're not Black Order specific or affiliated, I am going to mention the drop-off Rocket Boots combo with Corvus and Proxima. So you put Rocket Boots on Proxima, and you have her drop off Corvus, since they're both size 2. It's a good combo. I think it's strong. There's definitely counterplay to it though, and taking up 2 of your 5 card slots and 2 of your 8 card slots is just... If you're not playing Black Order specific, like if you're going to be rocking that combo pretty much most of your games, maybe it's worth it, But again, you only have so many resources available to you. You need to be judicious. These 5 card slots are getting harder and harder and harder to, justify their inclusion. Cards like Med Pack, Brace for Impact, I think now personally, Blind Obsession as well, just really drive some of these more marginal borderline cards out. It really, Atomic Mass, I hope at some point will institute, like a reserve list or something for some of these, the unaffiliated neutral cards, because, yeah, it's just, there's cool unique cards, for the characters or for these affiliations that just get squeezed out by some of these really powerful neutral cards, and that Rocket Boots drop-off combo, while taking a lot of resources, is still, one of those combos, I think, and really strong. So that will bring us to, like our lists and our roster discussion. And I think your biggest concern when you are talking about Black Order list building and roster construction is what gems am I bringing and who are they going on. And so that I'll talk about some of my favorite Thanos gem setups, because he's kind of the main man here. He's who most of these gems are going to go on. So he can bring them all. He can activate their powers for free. That's really powerful. And for that reason, my favorite gem is the Mind Gem. It gives him a free control ability, another one on top of his cosmic portals. And it gives you that second power, so that now I can throw out the Death's Decrees, I can throw out that cosmic portal turn 1, and just from 1 point, it still makes him pretty cost effective. And just in general, in roster building wise, there are several other Mind Gem bearers. So you have other people that you can throw into that roster, and it is still effective. So some of my other Thanos setups, gem setups that I like, as far as just 1 gem setups, I like the power, just the power gem on Thanos. 3 power on Thanos. Again, it lets you throw out those Death's Decrees, the cosmic portals. It keeps Thanos cheap, and most importantly, there's a lot of power gem users, so you can slot that really easily into your rosters and have that dual usage. So these gems, they're taking up your roster slots, and they function in a lot of ways like a character. So, taking up the threat, taking up a slot, I want them to get a lot of usage, because otherwise they're kind of like a dead slot, right? If I'm not planning on playing a lot of Thanos, and I'm not planning on playing this gem a lot, it's hard for me to justify this slot when I only got 10 options, So, just the power gem, just the mind gem. My top 2 gems for those reasons. But if we're going to start getting a little bit more expensive, my favorite Thanos setup, I think, the Super Thanos, is the Reality Gem with the Time Gem. So since you get that Time Gem activation for free, the Reality Gem modifying your dice, you're making Thanos even tankier, you're making him hit harder. I mean, he's just really a nightmare to deal with. That Time Gem acting kind of like a pseudo charge a lot of the times early game, because you're getting that movement and then a pair of attacks potentially. And yeah, it's just really late game, Thanos throwing out 3 attacks is just, that strike 3 times, some pinball action. It's brutal. I mean, he makes Thor look like a weakling, basically. So yeah, he's nasty. He's a nasty guy. And yeah, that's 9 points. It's not cheap. I don't know how much you're going to see that competitively, but fun-wise, absolutely. And I just, I want to talk about it, so we're gonna. So I think that's, pretty much all the big gem setups that I would consider. Some combination of those, the Time Gem, even by itself, really strong, and you can bring that, now with the Defenders coming out, you can bring maybe Stephen Strange and Thanos and rock that Mind Gem with them, I think that's good. So that'll lead us into, the roster. That's really is the biggest concern for me when I'm building these Black Order lists, is what gems am I bringing, and how can I fit them into good, effective rosters? So unless you're playing only Black Order, which, I guess is a thing you could do. You could just bring 5 gems and, a bunch of Black Order dudes. Maybe a random person, a neutral person, 1 less gem. But, I mean, if you want to rock pure Black Order, I guess you could do that. I don't know. Generally, what you're seeing is most players are doing those split affiliation rosters. And so I'm trying to fit 2 rosters in with these gems most of the time. I think that allows you to cover a lot more bases. And so those gems like the Mind Gem, the Power Gem, the Time Gem, once Defenders are, out here in a couple weeks, those are, I think, your biggest consideration for gems. So those affiliations, by extension, that have access to those people, I think are the best ones that pair with Black Order. So people like Defenders, when they come out, I think Defenders has a lot of good stuff that you want in Black Order. So, you have access to Valkyrie, you got a 2-point character with a heal, Wong. So I think he'll be pretty solid on Black Order. And Cabal, so you have access to Loki. You can hold both the Space and the Mind Gem, pretty solid. And my last favorite affiliation is Guardians of the Galaxy. So you have access to some really solid, you got the 2-point and 3-point options. You got Drax, who shores up a lot of those one of the major areas of weakness that the Black Order has, which is they don't have a ton of throws, like throw superpowers, that you can pay for. And, Drax synergizes well. He's got the damage reduction, he has the throw, and you also have 2 power gem users, so you have Ronan and Star-Lord, who can use that power gem as well if you're not playing Thanos. So those 3, Defenders, Cabal, Guardians of the Galaxy, I think those are the affiliations I'm looking towards the most, towards pairing with my Black Order rosters. So you have a lot of gems that have, crossover, you have characters that help you, that slot in well into your Black Order lists. And I think that's really your biggest things when you consider your Black Order list building. As far as specific Black Order lists, the one I really just want to talk about is that BDT. shamelessly stealing the big dick Thanos, and that is the list I've been running. I've had a lot of success with this list. I'm a big fan of it, and you are trying to get priority, although the priority is not huge, because what you're mostly trying to get is you're trying to get the secures and you're trying to get gamma waves. So priority just helps you do all that stuff easier, lets you pick the points where we want to play this at 15 points on gamma waves. And you run Thanos with either the Mind Gem or the Power Gem, one of your 1-point gem options. And then you run Corvus with the Reality Gem and Proxima. That's 15 points, that's 3 bodies, and on gamma waves, it allows you to knock out people really fast, really effectively, and still maintain priority, which on a fighting mission like that is just so huge. So it's just tough for the enemy to fight through the amount of wounds it has, especially, you got Thanos sitting on that back objective, just throwing cosmic portals and cosmic blasts out and softening people up, while you have Corvus and Proxima on the center objective, wreaking havoc. If you need to chain activate, you very easily can, and you can chain activate them, and sometimes if they have more bodies than you, you can knock out multiple people in a turn easily, depending on who the enemy team is, who they sent in the middle to fight you guys. That is tough to come back from, especially because you can do it all over again next turn, except this time I'm getting VPs for it, on top of probably the VP lead I've already established. So it is a really, really tough team. You can't outfight them basically, you have to try and out-control them, but the problem is it's still gamma waves, so you don't want to be hanging out on objectives, eating gamma damage at the end of every turn. It's not going to go well unless you have some kind of healing character. But that's the main, that's the big list that I've been running with them, and that little 3-man core at 15 points is, my personal favorite. Now, whatever gem you're running on Thanos, whether that's, maybe the Soul Gem, maybe the Mind Gem, my personal favorite, maybe the Power Gem, depending on your roster setup. You have that with Corvus Reality Gem plus Proxima. That's 15 points, and you can slot in one other character pretty easily, depending on your point costs. So generally, if it's at 16, I would try and shy away from 16 points, because it makes your list building a little awkward. Now, if I'm the enemy, maybe I want to do that, right? If I see your roster and be like, oh yeah, maybe I want to force a 16-pointer, make it awkward on you. This is a very good consideration for the enemy. But otherwise, you just take that core, the 15 points, you can throw in characters really easily. At 17 points, at 18 points, at 19, you can just throw in one other 2, 3, 4-point character, place it, get you up to points. Relatively simple. That is most of the major considerations, I think, that come to list building and roster construction. And so, just to round this discussion out, we're going to talk about some of the the honorary, the inductees into the Black Order. With my personal favorite is Black Widow. Yeah, Black Widow. For me, she just fulfills so many roles. So like I said earlier, I like these brawly, aggressive fighting teams. So Cabal, Black Order, and while most of the team is focused on fighting, having that backup piece to grab objectives or grab those objective tokens, be annoying. She just fulfills so many of those roles. I've played Black Order games where it's Ebony Maw and Thanos and her, and she scores a third or half of my points. Like, she's just running around, and while you're dealing with Thanos and Ebony Maw, just wreaking havoc on your team, Black Widow's just, chilling in the back, scoring points. So, for me, for my playstyle, Black Widow, huge fan of her. And, like, I won't even really play Avengers, I'll just throw Black Widow on my list. So, she's usually, I know Okoye is the new hotness, and yeah, Okoye is cool, don't get me wrong, Okoye is nice. But Black Widow is my two-pointer of choice. Love me some Black Widow. And then for some of the other, so one of the big reasons why I like Asgardians and Guardians of the Galaxy so much as a pairing to Black Order in your roster construction is because of the characters you get access to, such as Drax and Valkyrie. So those 3-point characters with throws, and Valkyrie, she's got that charge and she's nice and fast, and Drax has the damage reduction, so he's very similar to a lot of these other Black Order members, as far as durability. Both of them add that throw, like we discussed earlier, that Black Order just doesn't typically get access to. So I am a big fan of those. I think those are generally the two biggest things I would consider when I'm looking at my Black Order list. You have a little bit of dice manipulation, not a ton, but having that fast mover that can go out, grab points for you, and having a cheap, character. Generally, your 3-point characters just slot in very well into your list construction most of the time, but having, really any kind of character that has a payable throw superpower, because the only other person on this team that has it is Black Dwarf, and so adding that is, for me, that's one of my key, staples of roster construction, is when I'm building teams, how many throws do I get, and if I don't have enough, how can I add more? So I think that's generally it when it comes to the Black Order. We talked about some of their strengths, what cards you want to use, what your rosters and your lists are looking like, what pairings you want. I think that is the big key here to think about, is that, yeah, I have this Black Order list, and yeah, I have these gems and these setups I want to use on Thanos, but what is that roster going to look like? Though that's the tough decision when it comes to Black Order for me, for list building. But other than that, I just want to thank you guys for watching. Without you and the subscribers, we couldn't do this. So make sure to like, subscribe, smash that like button, share with everybody, and if you want to show some kind of monetary support, head over to our Patreon, check the links below, check out our sponsors, and as always, happy trails.